The crash of a plate hitting the hardwood floor rang out in Jackson's BBQ Shack, a cozy, legendary spot in the heart of Harlem, New York. A rack of ribs, slathered in sauce, slid across the floor, leaving a smear of smoky red. Maya Jackson, a 19-year-old black girl, stood frozen behind the counter, her hands shaking. "You think a black girl like you can cook BBQ?" Marcus Kane, the head chef, shouted, his voice sharp and mean, echoing through the half-empty dining room. "Stick to cleaning tables, kid." His words hit like a punch to the gut. Maya's heart pounded, her breath catching as she dropped to her knees, picking up the ruined ribs. She'd spent hours prepping them, rubbing spices, slow cooking them just like her dad taught her. "Sorry, boss," she whispered, her voice small. Marcus laughed, a cruel sound, and kicked another plate of her food to the floor. Thud. The ribs landed in a sad pile, sauce splattering. "You Ray making us look bad," he said, smirking. "Customers don't want you in the kitchen." A few people eating nearby glanced over, whispering, their looks cutting like knives. Maya's face burned, but she bit her lip, holding back tears. If she cried, she'd lose. And she wasn't about to let her dad's restaurant go down without a fight. Jackson's BBQ Shack was more than just a restaurant. It was her dad's whole world. Samuel Jackson, a black pitmaster, had built it from nothing in Harlem's tough food scene. His ribs, brisket, and cornbread were legendary, made with love and old family recipes. Regulars called him boss because he'd make their day with a plate of smoky meat and a warm smile. BBQ's not just food. He dared tell Maya when she was a kid, his hands covered in spice as he tended the smoker. "It's about making people feel at home. Picture their smiles, and that's what makes it taste right." Maya, barely tall enough to reach the counter, would nod, dreaming of the day she'd cook beside him, rubbing ribs or stirring sauce. But 3 months ago, her world broke apart. A late-night call from the hospital, words like car crash and I-95 ripped her heart open. Samuel was gone, killed in an accident just days before Maya was set to start at Howard University. At his funeral, she stood next to her mom, Clara, her eyes dry but her chest heavy. The restaurant was all she had left of him. "Mom, I'm not going to college," she told Clara afterward, her voice steady despite the pain. "I am keeping Dad's place alive." Clara frowned. "You got into Howard, Maya. That's your future." But Maya didn't waver. "Dad's BBQ is my future. I'm gonna be a pitmaster like him." So, she traded college for the kitchen, stepping into Jackson's BBQ Shack to carry her dad's dream. That dream got heavier every day with Marcus Kane running things. Samuel had picked Marcus, his apprentice for 10 years, to take over. "Marcus is solid," Samuel used to say, grinning. "He's got the hands for it. He'll run this place one day." Marcus, 35, was a pro. His brisket was tender, his sauce balanced. But Maya knew a side of him her dad never saw. When Samuel wasn't around, Marcus turned nasty. "A black girl like you shouldn't be near the smoker," he'd snap, tossing her prepped meat in the trash or hiding her spices. "Don't think being the boss's kid makes you special." His racism came out when no one was looking, and Maya kept quiet, not wanting to worry her dad. Now, with Samuel gone, Marcus didn't even try to hide it. A week after her dad's death, Marcus took over and laid down the law. "My rules now," he said, his voice hard. "Don't like it? Get out." Maya stayed, not for him, but for her dad. But Marcus made it miserable. He wouldn't let her near the smoker, sticking her with scrubbing tables, washing dishes, and taking out trash from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. "Don't think you're special just 'cause your daddy built this place," he'd say, grinning like he enjoyed it. "A black girl in the kitchen? That's why we're losing customers." His words stung, but Maya took it, her hands raw from soap, her back sore from hauling garbage. Quitting wasn't an option. That didn't mean letting her dad down. Marcus wasn't just mean to her, he was ruining everything her dad worked for. Samuel's BBQ was special. Ribs slow-cooked for 12 hours, sauce made from scratch with molasses and smoked peppers, cornbread fluffy and sweet. Marcus didn't care. Too much work, he'd say, using store-bought sauce and cheap cuts of meat. He skipped the long smoking process, tossing meat in the oven with liquid smoke. This is how it's done now, he'd tell Maya when she tried to speak up. Your dad's way is old news. She'd clench her fists, her voice shaky. This ain't Dad's taste. You remessing it up. He'd just laugh. You don't know nothing, kid. Stay out of it. The customers noticed. Mr. Weston, a regular for 30 years, was a retired guy from Brooklyn who loved Samuel's ribs. One night, he took a bite of Marcus S. brisket and stopped, his face falling. This ain't Jackson's BBQ, he said, sounding hurt. It's not the meat, it's the heart. He left his plate half-eaten and walked out, his steps heavy. Maya watched from behind the counter, her throat tight, tears running down her face. 30 years of loyalty, gone in one bite. She wanted to chase after him, to say it wasn't her fault, but her feet wouldn't move. Marcus didn't care. Your fault, he said, pointing at her. Your kind don't belong here. The restaurant was falling apart. The dining room, once packed with people laughing over plates of ribs, was now quiet most nights. Marcus blamed Maya, saying her being black was driving people away, but he wouldn't admit his lazy shortcuts were the problem. He'd leave early to hit up Harlem clubs, bragging, I'm the boss of a big-time BBQ joint. He'd come back drunk, leaving Maya to clean up alone. Those late nights were her only peace. When the city was asleep, she'd pull out her dad's recipe notebook, a worn little book filled with his handwriting. It had everything. How to pick the best ribs, how to mix the perfect spice rub, how to smoke meat so it melts in your mouth. BBQ's got a soul, he'd written. Cook it with love. Under a single kitchen light, Maya would practice, rubbing spices, tending the smoker, whispering her dad's words like they'd keep her strong. One cold night, after Marcus yelled at her again, the restaurant door creaked open. An old man shuffled in, his yellow coat torn and dirty, his white hair messy. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days, but his eyes had a quiet strength. Maya's heart lifted a customer, finally. Welcome, sir, she said, giving a small smile. Marcus's laugh cut through the air. Hey, old man, he shouted, looking the guy up and down. This ain't a free food joint. A plate's $30. You got that kind of cash? The old man didn't flinch. I can pay, he said, his voice steady, almost classy despite his rough look. Can I get some ribs? Maya's chest hurt. Her dad would have treated this guy like family, no questions asked. She ignored Marcus's glare and stepped up. This way, sir, she said, leading him to a table. Marcus's face turned red. You don't call the shots here, he yelled. Maya stared him down, her heart racing. Dad taught me to serve everybody with the best BBQ, no matter who they are. Her voice was stronger than she felt, like her dad was speaking through her. Marcus's eyes narrowed, but he backed off, muttering, Fine, do what you want. You'll regret it. He stomped to the fridge, grabbing a slab of old meat, dry, almost gray. With a mean grin, he threw together a sloppy plate, the ribs tough, the sauce straight from a bottle. Here's your special BBQ, he said, shoving it at the old man. Maya wanted to scream. This wasn't BBQ, it was an insult. The old man ate slowly, his face getting sadder with every bite. He put down his fork, his voice quiet. The ribs here used to taste different, he said, like he was remembering something better. Maya's heart broke. He knew her dad's BBQ, the real Jackson's BBQ Shack. And they given him this junk. She couldn't take it. She slipped into the kitchen, grabbing the ribs she'd bought with her own money, nothing fancy, but fresh and prepped with care. Her hands shook as she rubbed spices, her dad's voice in her head. Low and slow, let the smoke do the work. She sliced the meat, plated it with homemade sauce, and added a piece of cornbread. Back at the table, she set the plate in front of the old man. This one's free, sir, she whispered. He looked up, surprised, then took a bite. His eyes went wide, and tears rolled down his face. This is it, he said, his voice shaky. This is the taste I wanted. He ate slowly, savoring each bite, like it brought back something he'd lost. Maya's own tears were close, but she held them back. She'd done it. She'd brought her dad's BBQ back, even just for a second. Marcus ruined the moment, slamming a bill down. "Eat and get out, old man," he snapped. "You remaking this place look bad." The old man paid quietly and stood to leave. Maya followed him outside, the cold air hitting her face. "I'm so sorry," she said, bowing her head, tears falling now. "We should have done that to you." Her voice broke. "I'm Maya Jackson." The old man looked at her, his face soft under the streetlights. He handed her a card, gold letters shining. "Henry Brooks, CEO, Brooks Meats." "Your BBQ's got your dad's heart," he said. "Call me if you need help. I owe Samuel a lot." Then he was gone, disappearing into the Harlem night, leaving Maya holding the card, her heart racing with a tiny spark of hope. Marcus was killing the restaurant, and he didn't even care. Samuel's BBQ was built on love ribs, smoked for 12 hours until they fell off the bone, sauce mixed from scratch with molasses and smoked peppers, cornbread so fluffy it melted in your mouth. Every bite was a piece of his heart. But Marcus? He cut every corner he could. Too much hassle. He'd say, swapping Samuel's slow-cooked ribs for cheap cuts thrown in an oven with bottled sauce. He ditched the homemade spice rub for pre-mixed packets loaded with salt and fake smoke flavor. "This is faster," he'd tell Maya when she begged him to go back to her dad's way. "Your old man's recipes are ancient history. Customers want cheap and quick." Maya's stomach twisted every time he said it. This wasn't her dad's BBQ. It was a lie on a plate. The customers knew it. The dining room, once packed with families laughing over plates of brisket, was now half empty most nights. Regulars who'd been coming for decades were disappearing. Mr. Weston, the retired guy from Brooklyn who'd eaten Samuel's ribs for 30 years, hadn't been back since that night. He left his plate half-eaten, his face heavy with disappointment. "This ain't Jackson's BBQ," he'd said. "It's not the meat, it's the heart." Maya could still see his back as he walked out, his steps slow, like he was saying goodbye forever. Other regulars followed. Mrs. Carter, who always ordered extra cornbread for her grandkids. Mr. and Mrs. Lee, who'd driven from Queens every Sunday for Samuel's pulled pork. One by one they stopped coming, their absence like a hole in Maya's chest. Marcus didn't care about the empty tables. He blamed Maya. "A black girl like you in the kitchen, that's why they're leaving," he'd say, his voice dripping with venom. "You re-bad for business." His racism was like a weight on her shoulders, pressing harder every day. He wouldn't let her near the smoker or even touch the meat, sticking her with the grunt work, cleaning grease traps, mopping floors, wiping down every inch of the restaurant. "Stay out of my way," he'd snap, shoving past her to grab another beer from the fridge. "You lucky I let you stay here at all." Maya bit her lip, her hands balled into fists. She wanted to scream that he was the problem, not her, but she could tee. If she pushed back too hard, he'd kick her out. And then what would happen to her dad's dream? Every night, Marcus would leave early, his jacket slung over his shoulder, a smirk on his face. "Gotta go, network," he'd say, which Maya knew meant hitting up bars and clubs, throwing around cash, and boasting, "I am the boss of Jackson's BBQ Shack." He'd stumble back the next morning, eyes red, breath sour, leaving Maya to handle everything, prepping for the day, cleaning up his mess, keeping the restaurant running. She was exhausted, her body screaming for rest, but those late nights were her only chance to fight back. When Marcus was gone, and the city was quiet, Jackson's BBQ Shack became hers again. She'd pull out her dad's recipe notebook, a beat-up little thing with pages stained from years of sauce and smoke. It was her lifeline, filled with Samuel's handwriting, how to pick the best ribs, the exact mix of paprika and brown sugar for the rub, the secret to a sauce that hit sweet, tangy, and smoky all at once. "BBQ's got a soul," he'd written in bold letters. "Cook it like you feeding family." Under the dim kitchen light, Maya would fire up the smoker, her hands steady despite the ache in her arms. She'd practice rubbing spices, slow cooking ribs, stirring sauce until it was just right. Each move was a promise to her dad. "I won't let you down." But it wasn't easy. Marcus made sure of that. He'd come in the next morning and notice the smoker had been used. "You messing with my kitchen?" he'd yell, his face red. "A black girl like you don't belong near the meat." He'd throw out her practice ribs, not even tasting them, or dump her sauce down the drain. "Don't touch nothing unless I say so," he'd say, pointing a finger in her face. Maya would nod, her jaw tight, but inside, she was burning. She started hiding her ingredients, buying fresh meat with her own money and stashing it in the back of the fridge where Marcus wouldn't look. She'd wait until he was gone, then pull it out, working until dawn to perfect her dad's recipes. Some nights, she'd fall asleep on the kitchen floor, the notebook clutched to her chest, her dad's words echoing in her dreams. The restaurant's decline was getting worse. The books told a grim story. Sales were half what they were when Samuel was alive. Bills piled up, and the phone stopped ringing with reservations. Marcus didn't seem to notice or care. He'd sit in the back, scrolling on his phone, muttering about how people don't appreciate real BBQ anymore. But Maya knew the truth. It wasn't the customers. It was Marcus's cheap, heartless food. One night, a new customer, a young guy in a suit, took a bite of Marcus's ribs and pushed the plate away. "This tastes like gas station food," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. He left a 20 on the table and walked out. Maya's heart sank. She wanted to run after him, to say, "That's not us, come back." But she couldn't act. Marcus just shrugged. "Picky jerk," he muttered, then turned to Maya. "Your fault. You bad luck." The weight of it all was crushing her. She'd go home to the small apartment she shared with her mom, Clara, her body sore, her eyes heavy. Clara could see it. "Maya, you killing yourself," she said one night, her voice soft but worried. She was sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of tea gone cold in her hands. "You don't have to do this. You can quit, go to college, live a normal life." Maya forced a smile, but her eyes were tired. "I'm fine, Mom. Just a long day." But Clara wasn't fooled. She saw the dark circles under Maya's eyes, the way her shoulders slumped, the light fading from her daughter's face. "You not fine," Clara said, her voice breaking. "You carrying too much. Your dad wouldn't want this." Maya's throat tightened. She looked away, her fingers tracing the edge of the table. "I see Dad in my dreams," she said quietly. "He's in the kitchen, cooking, smiling, making people happy. Everybody's laughing, eating his ribs, talking like family. I want that back, Mom. I can give up." Clara's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't argue. She just reached out, squeezing Maya's hand, knowing her daughter's stubborn heart was set. Back at the restaurant, Marcus's behavior got worse. He started cutting even more corners, buying the cheapest meat he could find, stuff that was tough and fatty, nothing like the quality Samuel used. "Costs too much to do it your dad's way," he'd say, tossing a bag of frozen ribs into the oven. He stopped making cornbread altogether, saying, "Nobody cares about sides." When Maya tried to argue, he'd shut her down. "You just a kid," he'd say, his voice sharp. "A black kid at that. You don't get to tell me how to run this place." His words were like a slap. But Maya kept her head down, scrubbing tables, biding her time. One night, after Marcus left early again, Maya found a small victory. She'd saved up enough to buy a rack of good ribs, the kind her dad would picked meaty, fresh, perfect for the smoker. She hid them in the back of the fridge, behind a stack of Marcus's cheap sauce bottles. When the restaurant was empty, she fired up the smoker, the familiar hum filling the quiet kitchen. She rubbed the ribs with her dad's spice mix, her hands moving like they had a mind of their own. The smell of paprika and garlic filled the air, and for a moment, it was like Samuel was there, standing beside her, nodding. She cooked them low and slow, just like he taught her, checking the temperature, brushing on sauce she'd made from scratch. When they were done, she took a bite, and tears stung her eyes. It was her dad's BBQ, smoky, tender, full of heart. She wrapped the ribs carefully and hid them, knowing Marcus would throw them out if he found them. But that small taste was enough to keep her going. She started doing it more often, sneaking in her own ingredients, practicing whenever Marcus was gone. She'd stay up until 3 a.m., perfecting her cornbread, tweaking the sauce to get the balance just right. Each time she'd read her dad's notebook, his words like a lifeline, "Cook like you, refeeding someone you love," She'd whisper it to herself, her hands steady even when her body was tired. She was getting better, her cuts cleaner, her flavors closer to her dad sets. But it was a secret she had to keep, because Marcus would never let her cook for real. The restaurant's troubles weren't just about the food. Marcus's attitude was driving everyone away. He'd snap at customers, roll his eyes when they asked for extra sauce, or ignore them altogether if they didn't look rich enough. One evening, a family came in, laughing and excited, probably celebrating something special. Marcus barely looked at them, tossing a plate of dry ribs on their table. "Eat quick," he said, walking away. The mom looked confused, the kids disappointed. They left without finishing, and Maya's heart ached as she cleared their plates. Her dad would be sat down with them, asked about their day, made them feel like family. Marcus was killing that spirit, and it hurt more than his insults. One night, as Maya was closing up, she found a crumpled receipt on the counter. It was from a week ago, when Mr. Weston had come in. He'd written a note on it. Samuel S. BBQ was family. "This ain't it." Maya stared at the words, her chest tight. She slipped the receipt into her pocket. Next to the card, Henry Brooks, the old man from Brooks Meats, had given her. She hadn't called him yet. Part of her felt like it'd be cheating to ask for help. But as she looked around the empty dining room, the flickering neon sign outside, she wondered how much longer she could hold on. The restaurant was slipping away, and with it, her dad's legacy. She went home that night, her body heavy with exhaustion. Clara was waiting, her face lined with worry. "Maya, you can keep doing this," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You're fading away. Your dad wouldn't want you to break yourself for this place." Maya looked at her mom, her eyes stinging. "I'm not breaking," she said, but her voice cracked. I can let Dad's place die. I see him in my dreams, Mom. He's cooking, smiling, making people happy. I have to make that real again." Clara sighed, pulling Maya into a hug. "You read just like him," she said. "Stubborn as hell." Maya laughed, a small, tired sound, but it was enough to keep her going. Back at the restaurant the next day brought more of the same. Marcus showed up late, hungover, his eyes bloodshot. "Clean the smoker!" he barked at Maya, not even looking at her. She nodded, her jaw tight, but inside she was screaming. The smoker was her dad's pride, a custom-built beast that gave his ribs their magic. Now it was caked with grease from Marcus's shortcuts. As she scrubbed it, her hands raw, she thought about the old man, Henry Brooks. His card was still in her pocket, its gold letters a faint promise. She didn't know what he could do, or why he owed her dad, but that night, as she locked up alone, she held the card under the streetlight, her heart racing. Something told her it was a lifeline, but she wasn't ready to use it yet. Not while she still had fight left. Stephanie Jackson stood frozen behind the counter, her heart pounding as Marcus Kane's voice echoed in her head. "A black girl like you can't cook BBQ." The words stung, but today, they felt heavier than ever. It was early morning at Jackson's BBQ Shack, and the Harlem restaurant was supposed to be buzzing with prep for a massive catering order, 100 plates of ribs, brisket, and cornbread for a corporate anniversary party. But something was wrong. The kitchen was quiet, the smoker cold, and the fridge nearly empty. Maya's stomach dropped as she checked the order log. Nothing. No meat ordered, no supplies prepped. Marcus had screwed up big time. The phone call had come a week ago, a crisp voice from Eastern Trading, a big-shot company in Manhattan. "We need BBQ for our 50th anniversary party next Friday," the woman said. 100 people. Can you handle it? Marcus had practically jumped out of his chair, his eyes gleaming with dollar signs. "No problem. We'll give you the best ribs in Harlem," he'd boasted, scribbling the order on a napkin. It was the kind of job that could turn things around for the struggling restaurant, bring back customers, maybe even some of the old regulars who'd ditched them when Marcus started cutting corners. But now, standing in the empty kitchen at 7 a.m., Maya realized he'd forgotten to order the meat. No ribs, no brisket, nothing for 100 people, and the party was in 6 hours. "Marcus!" Maya yelled, her voice shaking with panic. He stumbled in from the back, his eyes red, hair a mess, reeking of last night's whiskey. "What is with the screaming?" he muttered, rubbing his temples. Maya shoved the empty order log in his face. Where's the meat? The 100-person order, you didn't do it. Marcus S. face went from hungover to ghost white. Oh, crap, he said, his voice small. He'd been too busy partying, blowing cash at clubs, to handle the biggest job the restaurant had seen in months. What do we do? He stammered, pacing the kitchen, his hands shaking. This is bad, Maya. They could sue us. We re-talking millions. Maya's head spun. Eastern Trading wasn't just any client. They were huge. The kind of company that could ruin Jackson's BBQ Shack with one bad review. A lawsuit could shut them down for good, wipe out everything her dad, Samuel Jackson, had built over 30 years. The thought of his dream, his smoky ribs, his warm smile, his packed dining room crumbling made her chest ache. She grabbed her phone, calling every supplier in their contacts. We need ribs, brisket, anything for 100 people. By noon, she begged. But the answers were the same. Too short notice. Can do it today. Sorry, kid. Her hands shook as she hung up each call, her hope fading. Marcus was no help, pacing like a trapped animal, muttering, "This is your fault, Maya. You should V-check the orders." His words were a cheap shot, trying to pin his mess on her. "You re the boss, Marcus!" She snapped back, her voice cracking. "You said you had it handled." He glared at her, his face red. "Don't talk back, girl. A black kid like you shouldn't even be here." The racism in his tone wasn't new, but it hit harder today when everything was on the line. Maya clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. She wanted to scream, but there was no time. The clock was ticking, and they were out of options. She stumbled to the back of the kitchen, her legs weak, and sank to the floor in front of her dad's old photo, taped to the wall. Samuel's face smiled down at her, his eyes warm, like he was still there, tending the smoker. "I'm sorry, Dad," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I tried so hard, but I can't save your place." The guilt was crushing guilt for letting Marcus run the show, for not fighting harder, for watching her dad's legacy slip away. She sobbed, her body shaking, the weight of failure too much to bear. As she reached for the phone to call Eastern Trading and beg for forgiveness, something fell from a shelf above. A small box hit the floor, spilling old photos, a worn apron, and a single card with gold letters. Henry Brooks, CEO, Brooks Meats. Maya's breath caught. That old man in the tattered coat, the one who'd eaten her ribs and said they had her dad's heart. His words echoed in her mind. "Call me if you need help. I owe Samuel a lot." She'd kept his card in her pocket for weeks, too stubborn to use it, thinking she could save the restaurant on her own. But now, with the clock ticking and the restaurant on the line, she had no choice. Her hands trembled as she dialed the number, each ring feeling like forever. It was early, too early for a big-shot CEO to answer. She was about to hang up when a calm, familiar voice came through. "Henry Brooks, Mr. Brooks?" Maya's voice shook, tears choking her words. "It's Maya Jackson, from Jackson SBBQ Shack. You came in a while back." She spilled everything, the 100-person order, Marcus S. screw-up, the empty fridge, the threat of losing everything. Her words came out messy, broken by sobs, but she kept going, desperate. "We were gonna lose the restaurant, Mr. Brooks. I don't know what to do." There was a long pause, and she thought he'd hang up. Then his voice came, steady as a rock. 1 hour, Maya. Get the kitchen ready and wait." The line went dead. Maya stared at the phone, her heart pounding. 1 hour? What could happen in 1 hour? She didn't know, but it was the only hope she had. She wiped her tears, stood up, and started prepping, cleaning the smoker, setting out spices, getting the counters ready. Marcus watched, still panicking. "What is going on?" "Who was that?" he demanded, but Maya ignored him, her focus razor-sharp. She didn't know what Brooks was planning, but she trusted him. Something about his voice, his tears when he ate her ribs, told her he was for real. Exactly 1 hour later, the street outside Jackson SBBQ Shack roared to life. Maya peeked out the window and froze. 5 huge refrigerated trucks pulled up, their sides painted with Brooks Meats in bold letters. One, two, three, four, five, each one bigger than the last. The door of the final truck swung open, and out stepped Henry Brooks, but not the ragged old man from before. He was in a sharp suit, polished shoes, his white hair neat, his posture straight. He looked like a king, not a drifter. "Morning, Maya," he said, his voice warm but firm. "We recutting it close, but we'll make it." Before she could speak, the truck doors opened, and a crew of workers in white jackets started unloading crates. Maya's jaw dropped. Prime ribs from Texas, brisket from Nebraska, pork shoulders from North Carolina, top-shelf meat. The kind her dad used to save for special occasions. There were crates of fresh corn for cornbread, sacks of spices, even jars of molasses for sauce. It was a mountain of supplies, more than enough for 100 people, and better than anything Marcus had ordered in months. How Maya started, but her voice failed her. Marcus, standing nearby, looked like he'd seen a ghost, his knees wobbling. "That's the old man?" he muttered, his face pale. One of the workers, a tall guy in a white coat, bowed to Brooks. "We picked the best, sir, just like you asked," he said. Brooks nodded, then turned to Maya. "Get to work," he said, not harsh, but urgent. "You've got 3 hours." Maya snapped out of her shock, tying her apron tight. "Yes, sir," she said, her voice steady for the first time that morning. Marcus grabbed a knife, his hands shaking so bad he could barely hold it. "I can do this," he mumbled, sweat dripping down his face. "We're screwed." His usual cocky attitude was gone, replaced by raw panic. Maya ignored him, her mind locked on the job. She'd been practicing her dad's recipes in secret for weeks, and now it was her chance to prove it. She started with the ribs, her hands moving like they had a mind of their own. She mixed the spice rub, paprika, garlic powder, brown sugar, just like her dad's notebook said. The smoker hummed as she loaded it, the scent of hickory filling the air. She sliced brisket, her knife clean and quick, then started the sauce, stirring molasses and peppers over low heat. It was like her dad was guiding her, his voice in her head. "Low and slow, Maya. Let the smoke do the work." Marcus tried to keep up, but his cuts were sloppy, his hands unsteady. "I can focus," he said, his voice breaking. "I messed this up, Maya. I'm sorry." It was the first time he'd ever apologized, but she didn't have time to care. "Help, or get out of my way," she said, her voice sharp. Marcus blinked, stunned, then grabbed a rack of ribs, trying to match her pace. But Maya was in a zone, her hands moving like they were born for this. She rubbed, smoked, and sauced, each step perfect, like she was channeling her dad. Marcus watched, his mouth half open. "Where did you learn that?" he asked, almost to himself. Maya didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her dad's notebook, her late-night practice, it was all paying off. The kitchen filled with the smell of BBQ, the real Jackson S. BBQ shack, the kind that used to pack the dining room. 2.5 hours later, they were done. 100 plates of ribs, brisket, cornbread, and coleslaw, all packed in catering boxes, each one looking like a piece of art. The meat was tender, the sauce glossy, the cornbread golden. Maya stepped back, her apron stained, her body exhausted but her heart full. They'd done it. They'd saved the order. She sank to the floor, catching her breath, tears of relief in her eyes. "We made it, Dad," she whispered, glancing at his photo. The delivery crew loaded the boxes, and as they drove off, Maya turned to Brooks, her voice shaky. "Mr. Brooks, I don't know how to thank you." He smiled, his eyes kind but serious. "That night, you served me those ribs, Maya. I tasted Samuel's heart," he said. "This is my way of paying him back." Marcus stood nearby, still shaking, his face a mix of shame and fear. Brooks turned to him, his voice suddenly cold. "You re the boss here, Marcus. Samuel trusted you, so why do you betray him?" His words cut deep, and Marcus flinched, his head low. Cheap meat, half-assed cooking, treating customers like garbage. Treating Maya like garbage. Is that what Samuel taught you? Marcus opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Brooks' eyes narrowed. "Your dad saved my company, Maya," he said, softer now. 30 years ago, I was broke, about to lose everything. Samuel gave me 50 grand, no questions asked. Said, we help each other out. That's why I am here. Maya's eyes widened. Her dad had never told her that story. Brooks looked at Marcus again, his voice hard. You've got skills, Marcus. 10 years under Samuel, that's real. But you lost the heart. You let this place fall apart. Marcus's face crumpled. I couldn't be him, he said, his voice breaking. I tried, but his food made people smile, made them family. Mine never did. I got jealous, okay? I messed up. He sank to his knees, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, Maya. I didn't mean to ruin everything. It was the first time she'd seen him break, his tough guy act gone. Maya's heart twisted anger, pain, but also a flicker of pity. She'd hated him for months, but now he looked small, broken. Brooks crossed his arms. You've got a choice. Marcus, keep running this place into the ground, and I'll make sure no supplier in this city works with you. Or step up, teach Maya everything Samuel taught you, and help her bring this place back. He paused, his eyes sharp. Choose now. Marcus looked up, tears still falling. I'll do it, he said, his voice hoarse. I'll teach her. I'll make this right, for Samuel. Maya stared at him, her chest tight. She didn't trust him, not yet, but she nodded. I just want to save Dad's place, she said quietly. Let's do it together. Brooks nodded, a small smile breaking through. That's a start, he said. Now get some rest. Tomorrow's a new day for Jackson's BBQ Shack. The sun was barely up, casting a soft orange glow over Harlem's quiet streets, as Maya Jackson pushed open the door of Jackson's BBQ Shack. It was 5 a.m., and the restaurant was silent, the air still smelling faintly of yesterday's smoke. Her apron was tied tight, her dad's recipe notebook tucked under her arm. For the first time in months, she didn't feel alone. Marcus Kane was already there, standing by the smoker, his sleeves rolled up, his face serious. No hungover eyes, no cocky smirk. Just Marcus, ready to work. After the disaster with the 100-person order and Henry Brooks' ultimatum, something had shifted. Marcus had promised to change, to teach Maya everything her dad, Samuel Jackson, had taught him. Today was day one, and Maya's heart was a mix of hope and doubt. Could she trust him? Morning, Maya, Marcus said, his voice low but steady. He was holding a rack of ribs, inspecting it like it was gold. We re-hitting the market first. Gotta pick the right meat. Maya nodded, surprised. Marcus hadn't gone to the market himself in months, always leaving it to her or some delivery guy with cheap cuts. Okay, she said, keeping her guard up. She'd heard promises before, and Marcus' track record wasn't exactly clean. His racism, his lazy shortcuts, his cruel words, they were still fresh, like a bruise that hadn't he healed. But Henry Brooks' words echoed in her head. He's got skills. Teach her, or you redone. Marcus knew he was on thin ice, and Maya wasn't about to let him off easy. The Harlem meat market was buzzing by 5:30 a.m. Vendors shouting over crates of ribs, brisket, and pork shoulders. Marcus moved with purpose, his eyes sharp as he checked each cut. Your dad always said, talk to the meat, he told Maya, holding up a rack of ribs. Feel the weight, check the marbling. Too lean, and it's dry. Too fatty, and it's greasy. Maya listened. Her dad's notebook open in her hands, scribbling notes. Samuel's handwriting had similar advice. Good ribs tell you they're ready to be smoked. Marcus pointed to a stack of pork shoulders. That one, he said to the vendor. And those ribs over there, prime cuts only. Maya raised an eyebrow. This was new. Marcus, caring about quality? She wasn't buying it yet, but she followed, watching his every move. Back at the restaurant, the real work began. Marcus fired up the smoker, the hum filling the kitchen like a heartbeat. Your dad's ribs were magic, he said, his voice softer than usual. He had this way of layering the rub paprika first, then garlic, then a pinch of cayenne for bite. He handed Maya a bowl of spices. Show me what you got. Maya hesitated, her hands hovering over the ribs. She practiced alone for weeks, but doing it with Marcus watching felt different. His old insults. A black girl like you shouldn't touch the meat still stung. But she took a breath, picturing her dad's smile, and started rubbing the spices, her fingers steady, copying the steps from his notebook. Marcus watched, his arms crossed, but he didn't interrupt. When she finished, he nodded, just once. Not bad, he said, but you repressing too hard. Light touch. Let the spices sit. He showed her, his hands moving smooth and quick, like he'd done it 1,000 times. Maya saw it, then her dad wasn't lying when he said Marcus had skills. His cuts were clean, his rub perfect. For a second, she saw the guy her dad believed in, not the jerk who'd trashed the restaurant. Try again, Marcus said, handing her another rack. Maya did, lighter this time, and Marcus gave a small grunt of approval. Better. It wasn't all smooth. Marcus's old habits crept in. He'd snap when Maya moved too slow, or roll his eyes when she asked questions. Don't mess this up, he'd say, his voice sharp. But then he'd catch himself, take a breath, and explain again. Slower. Maya could tell he was trying, fighting against years of arrogance and resentment. She wasn't ready to forgive him, not after all the times he'd humiliated her, blamed her for the restaurant's problems just because she was black. But she listened, learned, because this wasn't about Marcus. It was about saving Jackson's BBQ Shack, about keeping her dad's heart alive. Maya had her own lessons to teach. One morning, as they prepped sauce, she stopped Marcus from dumping in a bottle of store-bought molasses. Dad said BBQ is a conversation, she told him, her voice firm. You gotta know what the customer's feeling. Are they celebrating? Stressed? That changes how you season. Marcus frowned, like he wasn't sure he bought it. Your dad said that? He asked. Maya nodded, flipping open the notebook to a page where Samuel had written, Listen to the table. Happy folks want a sweeter sauce. Tired ones need spice to wake them up. Marcus read it, his jaw tight. I forgot that part, he admitted, his voice low. I got so caught up in the food, I stopped seeing the people. That was the first crack in his armor, and Maya saw it. Marcus wasn't just a jerk, he'd been chasing her dad's shadow for 10 years, always coming up short. It didn't excuse how he'd treated her, but it made him human. Slowly, they started finding a rhythm. Marcus taught her how to trim brisket so it cooked even, how to keep the smoker at a steady 225 farads. Maya showed him how to tweak the cornbread batter, more butter for a softer crumb, a touch of honey for sweetness. They weren't friends, not by a long shot, but they were working together, and that was something. The restaurant wasn't fixed overnight. The dining room was still half empty, the regulars still gone. But word about the 100-person order spread. Eastern Trading had loved the food, sending a glowing thank you note that Maya taped to the wall next to her dad's photo. They said it was the best BBQ they'd ever had, she told Marcus, her voice proud but cautious. Marcus just nodded, his eyes on the smoker. That was you, he said quietly. Those ribs had your dad's touch. Maya blinked, caught off guard. Was that respect? She didn't trust it, but it felt like a start. Henry Brooks started showing up too. The old man now always in a sharp suit. No more tattered coat would come in once a week, order a plate of ribs, and eat slowly, savoring each bite. Getting there, he'd say, his eyes twinkling. Your dad's smiling somewhere. His visits were a boost, not just for Maya's confidence, but for the restaurant's rep. Brooks Meats was a big name, and if their CEO was eating at Jackson's BBQ Shack, people noticed. A few new faces started trickling in, locals curious about the buzz, foodies who'd heard whispers about a comeback. But the old regulars like Mr. Weston and Mrs. Carter were still missing, and that hurt the most. One evening, as Maya and Marcus closed up, a familiar face walked through the door. It was Mr. Weston, the 30-year regular who'd walked out months ago, his face sad after tasting Marcus' half-assed brisket. Maya's heart skipped. Welcome, sir, she said, her voice shaky with hope. Marcus froze, his hands pausing over a rack of ribs. Weston sat at the counter, his eyes scanning the menu. Heard you getting back to Samuel's way, he said, his voice gruff but curious. Let's see if it's true. Maya glanced at Marcus, who nodded, his face tight. You take it, he said, stepping back. Maya's hands shook as she rubbed the ribs, smoked them low and slow, and plated them with cornbread and her dad's sauce. She set the plate in front of Weston, holding her breath. He took a bite, chewing slowly. The whole restaurant seemed to go quiet, like everyone was waiting. Then he smiled, a real smile, the kind her dad used to draw out. This is it, he said, his voice warm. This is Samuel S. BBQ. Maya's eyes stung, but she held back tears, giving him a small nod. Thank you, sir, she said. Weston ate every bite, and when he left, he slipped a note under his plate. Keep it up, kid. Your dad's proud. Maya clutched the note, her heart full for the first time in months. Marcus was changing too. The old arrogance was fading, replaced by something quieter, humbler. One morning, as they prepped for the day, he looked at Maya, his eyes serious. I was wrong about you, he said, his voice rough. I thought a black girl couldn't do this, but you've got Samuel's heart, and you're re-damn good. Maya stared at him, her guard still up. You made my life hell, Marcus, she said, her voice steady. Why should I believe you now? He looked down, his hands gripping the counter. I was jealous, he admitted. Your dad was a giant. I tried to be him, but I couldn't taste, so I took it out on you. I'm sorry. It wasn't enough to erase the pain, but it was something. Maya nodded, not ready to forgive, but willing to keep going. They started experimenting together, tweaking recipes to honor Samuel while adding their own touch. Marcus suggested a new rub with a hint of smoked chili for extra kick. Maya countered with a lighter cornbread, fluffier than her dad's but still rich. They'd argue sometimes Marcus still got impatient, Maya still pushed back, but it wasn't mean like before. It was like two cooks trying to get it right. One night, as they cleaned up, Marcus looked at the smoker, his voice low. Your dad said barbecue was about family, he said. I forgot that. You reminded me. Maya didn't say anything, but she felt a shift. Maybe, just maybe, they could save this place. The dining room was slowly coming back to life. A few more tables filled up each night, new customers mixing with curious locals. Mrs. Carter, the cornbread-loving grandma, came back one evening, bringing her grandkids. Heard you Ray cooking like Samuel again, she said, her eyes kind. Maya served her a plate, her hands steady now, and watched as the kids devoured the cornbread, giggling. It wasn't packed like the old days, but it was a start. Maya looked at her dad's photo, his smile seeming brighter. We're getting there, Dad, she whispered, but it wasn't all smooth. Some nights, Marcus slipped back, snapping at Maya when she moved too slow or questioning his methods. Don't act like you're the boss, he'd mutter, his old edge creeping in. Maya would stare him down, her voice calm but firm. I'm not the boss, Marcus, but this is my dad's place, and I'm fighting for it. He'd back off, mumbling an apology, and they'd keep going. It was messy, but it was progress. Maya kept her dad's notebook close, reading it every night, her hands surer with each batch of ribs. She was getting better, and Marcus was noticing. One evening, as they locked up, Marcus stopped her. Maya, he said, his voice serious. I've been thinking, this place, it's yours, not mine. Maya froze, her heart racing. What were you saying? She asked. Marcus looked at the neon sign outside, its glow steady now. Your dad wanted someone with heart to take over. That's you, not me. I'm going to teach you everything. And then, he trailed off, his eyes distant. Then we'll see. Maya didn't know what to say. Was he serious? After everything, could she trust him? She didn't have an answer, but for the first time, she felt like they were on the same side. The past year had been a grind. After Henry Brooks, the CEO of Brooks Meats, saved them with that truckload of prime meat, Maya and Marcus had rebuilt the restaurant step by step. Marcus taught her everything he knew, Samuel's tricks for a perfect rub, the exact heat for a smoky brisket. Maya brought her dad's heart, serving each plate like she was feeding family, just as Samuel's notebook taught her, BBQ's about love, cook for their smiles. They'd tweaked recipes together, keeping Samuel's classics but adding small twists, a spicier sauce for the locals, a sweeter cornbread for kids. The dining room filled up slowly at first, But word spread. Jackson's BBQ Shack was back. Regulars returned, one by one. Mrs. Carter brought her grandkids, who devoured Maya's cornbread and begged for seconds. Mr. Weston, the 30-year regular, was now a weekly fixture, always leaving a note. Samuel's proud, kid. Even new customers, foodies, critics, Harlem locals started packing the tables, drawn by stories of a young black girl and a humbled chef bringing a legend back to life. Henry Brooks stopped by often, his sharp suits a stark contrast to the tattered coat he'd worn that first night. He'd eat a plate of ribs, nod, and say, "You re-getting there, Maya." His visits weren't just for food, they were a stamp of approval, and in Harlem's food scene, that meant something. But it wasn't perfect. Marcus still had rough days, snapping when things got hectic, his old arrogance peeking through. "Move faster, Maya," he'd mutter, then catch himself, take a breath, and apologize. Maya wasn't quick to forgive his racist taunts from the early days, still lingered, but she saw the change. He wasn't the same guy who'd have thrown her ribs on the floor. He was trying, and she respected that, even if trust came slow. They'd argue over recipes sometimes, but it was different now, less about ego, more about getting the food right. "Try more cayenne in the rub," Marcus would say. Maya counter, "Only if we balance it with honey in the sauce." They were learning from each other, and the food showed it. One evening, as the dinner rush slowed, Marcus pulled Maya aside. The kitchen was quiet, the smoker humming softly, the air warm with the smell of hickory. He looked at her, his eyes serious, no trace of his old smirk. "Maya, I've been thinking," he said, his voice low. "This place, it's yours, not mine." Maya froze, her heart skipping. "What were you talking about?" she asked, wiping her hands on her apron. Marcus looked at the neon sign outside, its glow reflecting in his eyes. "Your dad wanted someone with heart to run this place. That is you. I've taught you everything I know, and you're better than me. I am stepping down. Next month I'm signing the restaurant over to you." Maya's breath caught. She dreamed of this, but hearing it from Marcus after everything felt unreal. "You were serious?" she asked, her voice shaky. Marcus nodded, his face steady. "I messed up a lot. Treated you wrong," trashed Samuel's dream. "This is my way of making it right. You re the second generation, Maya. It's your turn." Tears stung her eyes, but she blinked them back. She didn't know if she could forgive him fully, but she believed him. "Thank you," she said quietly. Marcus gave a small smile, the first real one she'd seen from him. "Don't thank me yet. You've got a lot to learn, kid. Being the boss ain't easy." The next week, Maya cooked for her mom, Clara. She set a plate of ribs, cornbread, and coleslaw on the table, her hands steady but her heart racing. Clara took a bite, chewing slowly, her eyes closing. "This is your dad's BBQ," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "But it's softer, sweeter. It's you, Maya." Tears rolled down her cheeks, and she pulled Maya into a hug. He'd be so proud. Maya hugged her back, her own tears falling. For the first time, she felt like she wasn't just carrying her dad's dream, she was making it her own. A month later, the sign outside Jackson's BBQ Shack changed. Second generation. Maya Jackson was carved in bold letters, glowing under the neon. The dining room was packed, the air alive with laughter and the clink of plates. Maya stood behind the counter, her apron stained with sauce, her dad's notebook tucked safely in her pocket. Marcus was there too, working the smoker, his role now as her right-hand man. "Welcome," they called out together as new customers walked in, their voices blending like they'd been a team all along. Maya looked at her dad's photo on the wall, his smile brighter than ever. "BBQ's heart," he'd written in his notebook. "Cook with love, and it last forever." That heart lived in her now, in every plate she served, every smile she earned. Marcus had changed too, his arrogance gone, replaced by a quiet pride in the work. Together, they'd brought Jackson's BBQ Shack back, not just as Samuel's place, but as something new, a legacy reborn. As the night wound down, Maya stepped outside, the Harlem air cool against her face. She looked at the sign, her name glowing beside her dad's. We did it, Dad, she whispered, her voice steady. The restaurant was alive, and so was his spirit. She'd keep cooking, keep learning, keep fighting. And somewhere, she knew, Samuel was smiling.